Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Uplift, episode 2. Today, we're going to build on last week as we talked about goal setting, writing that goal down. Did you guys do that? That was your homework. I hope you wrote it down. I hope you do not shove it away. And we're going to unravel the next steps on making that goal actionable.
Yeah, our call to action was for you to share it with someone as well. So we hope that you either verbalized that goal to someone, wrote it down and shared it. And we're here now to take you through the next steps to really achieving that goal, because it's a process. Today, we're going to try and keep that momentum going, and we're going to provide you with an ebook. And that ebook is going to really help you stay accountable, make it microdosed so that you can actually achieve that goal that you've written down and shared with someone.
Yeah. We think it's a great resource. It's not daunting. It's not a big undertaking, but it will just take that initial phrase or goal and break it down a little bit more. So we hope you find that helpful. So again, you can take it in small bites.
So I think, do you know what I'd really like to start with, Jen? I'd really like to start thinking about why we as women struggle to say what we want out loud.
hmm Yeah. We talked about this last week. It's definitely fear. That's the first thing that comes to our mind, and finding the space to allow for that goal. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's really real deal.
hmm
And I think overcoming that is part of the hurdle. Those inner voices really are strong and powerful, and they can be really limiting.
hmm
And, one thing I've learned through coaching is that one of the keys to actually being able to move forward for the coachee is to acknowledge what those self-limiting beliefs are. And that's hard. That's really hard
hmm
to know what it is that's having that quiet conversation in your voice, in your head,
Right.
that's stopping you from moving forward.
Yeah. And that's I think in page 1 of the workbook, it talks about after you define that goal is what hurdles will you face in getting to the goal.
Yeah.
And then once you define those hurdles, how do you overcome those hurdles? What is going to be your game plan for getting around those hurdles?
I see them as like little tiny, they can sometimes seem like mountains or
hmm
little tiny molehills. That is almost like we need to find a way to propel ourselves to leap over them,
100%.
but in doing that, it means you kind of almost have to do a deep dive self-examination on what's holding me back here. You know, why am I feeling this way? Why can't I take that next step?
Yeah,
So I think naming them is the first
for
part.
sure. So, in preparation for this episode, we tapped into some resources. We wanted to bring the receipts, if you will, to say, here are some, we believe, experts in the space and how they've approached some of the hurdles. So, we'll get into those.
I think Brené Brown is the master at this. I mean,
For sure. I mean, several best-selling books, amazing podcast. She's a go-to speaker for some of the most influential people out there. So her takeaways definitely honed in on us when we skimmed through her book or listened to her podcast or like took a deep dive into her content.
I think the key there again is about them being manageable, and just about having that awareness of yourself, but also just, making something. I think it's very easy for us to kind of have something in our mind and make it bigger than it actually is. I think it can manifest and
Mhm.
it becomes ugly. It becomes ugly, and then it's almost like, let's shove it to the side. I don't want to address that. I think Brené's books do a real good job of helping us kind of be honest with ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, take away some of that ick,
Yeah.
and really find out what is beautiful underneath.
Mhm. So with that, we often think in our midlife that we already should be something, right? Like you've already been through school, you've already had a period of adulting where, maybe midlife. I hope we're not midlife, but they call it midlife, right? And it seems like regression if you take a step back and like, what am I doing? Or what are people going to think? And we should already be where we're at. Can we really start over? And I know that you've probably heard all of the motivational things out there about people who started late in life, whether it was Oprah or, Julia Child, where there's people in life that just started later, and it's okay for you to start later too.
I also, though, see that this period of our life is about reinvention. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm way more secure in knowing who I am,
Hmm.
what I'm about, and actually what I want. And I just don't know if when I was younger, it was the fear was there more, or whether I just didn't truly know who I was. Like I was still exploring. But it's true, there's such pressure to have it all figured out by this point. But I say heck to that. Let's reinvent.
Right.
Let's be that phoenix rising, and
Hmm.
let's have another chance to do this over. And I think something that Renee Brown, a quote of hers that really resonates with me, is that you don't have to be fearless, you just have to be willing. And I think if you think about that quote,
Yeah.
um, it's okay to have that fear.
Right.
It's like
Yeah. You're going to be scared. You're
she's
going to
almost
be
saying,
scared.
have that fear.
Yeah.
Because, like you said before, it feels good to have that scary.
Hmm.
If we didn't have a scary, where's the skin in the game?
Right. Have you really thought it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that willingness,
Hmm.
which as I've become older, I think there's a bit more willingness for me to actually try things
Yep.
and fail.
Yep.
Because you know what? One of the biggest things I tell my kids actually is that part of the journey is that failure, and that
Hmm.
you actually probably learn more from failure
Yeah. And
than
you
you do
build
from
on that
succeed.
courage, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts out as maybe a deep fear, but then you're like, okay, I can do this. And then that courage can turn into that fear, turns into courage, turns into momentum.
So just remember that. Remember, you don't have to be fearless, just willing. Brené Brown.
Okay. So another master at strategy of goal setting is the emphasis Mel's Robbins. It's a little stalker status with me. I'm obsessed. One of her books, The 5 Second Rule, is a great mindset for just getting out of the way of yourself. So in the book, we'll link all the books at the end of this podcast. So if you want to tap into the resource, then you can dig deeper into those books. But her 5 second rule is as simple as that: is when you're ready to do something, where it's get out of that chair to go start your 5K, whether it is to write that one email in quest to, you know, find that new job opportunity or whatever your goal is it's to literally count backwards and launch yourself into that mess. So the simple 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're doing this. You're off the couch, you're moving, you're at the keyboard, you're typing, you're researching for whatever you're trying to do. Like, not making excuses, not getting in the way, because I think often we ask ourselves, like, where do we start? And we will find 1,000 excuses. But if you do that countdown, in your mind, once you do that countdown, there is no turning back. It's like being strapped into that roller coaster that you're going. As soon as that takes off, you are going. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So try that and see if it works. We want to hear.
It makes me think of the 5 second rule I have where it's been on the floor for 5 seconds, you can still eat it.
Right.
It
That
really
does
does.
work.
But
Hmm.
all seriousness, I think I can talk myself out of things within 5 seconds.
Right.
It's very easy to have that thought and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then 5 seconds later, I'm no longer doing that.
Yeah, that totally tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as we can talk ourselves into something, we can easily talk
Yeah.
ourselves out of something. So just be careful with that.
And I think that's one of the keys of like sharing that goal,
Hmm.
because you talking yourself out of something and you sharing it means that someone else knows about it and they might ask you about it, which is then harder to maneuver back out of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the keys here is having that goal, sharing it so that actually you can't backtrack on that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, for sure. And a perfect example of that is like on the weekend, sometimes I'll have work that I need to do for my career, my day job, right? And I'll tell my husband purposely, I'm like, hey, I have this project I need to get done. And I need to carve out time this weekend to do it, because I won't. I'll find 1,000 reasons. I'll need to go to the grocery store. I have 13 loads of laundry to do. Maybe we should finish binging that Netflix thing that we're watching. Like, I should walk the dog, like all the things that I need to do. But as I turn to shift, that's where he keeps me on task sometimes. And he'll be like, Didn't you have that work thing you need to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes,
It's
yes,
that
yes, yes."
accountability
It
partner. It
is,
really
yeah.
is.
And even in the moment, I'm like slightly annoyed. I roll with him. It is him holding me accountable, because sometimes I can't hold myself accountable. I can very easily switch courses. That's the Gemini in me. That will be another segment sometime in the future. That I need someone to pull me back. So Scott's really good about helping me stay on track. So that accountability partner is so important. And then I always feel better when it's done.
Well, when that self doubt starts creeping in, and that's real, especially at this point in my life. Um, if someone else knows about it and someone else is kind of checking in on it, it almost helps you overcome that self-doubt. Like
Mhm.
we talked about those molehills and mountains.
Yep.
It's almost like that accountability partner also works twofold in that it helps you leap over because you've shared it with someone. And so then you're like, oh, I put skin in the game.
Right.
I've now got to do this because I've said it out loud.
Yeah, someone's watching, someone's holding me
Yeah.
accountable. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There's a book out there by James Clear called Atomic Habits.
Mhm. Great book.
He talks about identity based habits, and that every action is a vote for who you're becoming.
Mhm.
I think part of that though is I talk about vulnerability a lot, about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be vulnerable.
No. It's
Um,
uncomfortable.
it really
Yeah,
is.
it makes you feel very exposed, it makes you feel out of sorts, it's not within your comfort zone. Yeah, horrible place to be, but I guess the uplift part of that is who do you want to be?
Mhm.
And how do you get there? And you're going to go through that stage of uncomfortableness in order to get to where you want to go.
In my coaching sessions, I will always kudos those folks that come in and they're vulnerable and they're
Mhm.
open and honest. I feel like they achieve so much more in a session when they demonstrate that vulnerability. I think there's a tendency for us as human beings to put the brave face on, and not really let that vulnerability out. But it can actually be a superpower. It
Yeah.
really can. And I think that's what I take from this book from James Clear is,
Mhm.
be aware of your vulnerability, um, almost leverage it to help you become the person that you want to become and to achieve those goals that you want to achieve.
Yeah. I tell the kids sometimes that, it's really easy to think about the physical aspect of pain and uncomfortable. It's like working out, right? So I tell them, like, I go, think about when you're doing push ups and, you do one, you do two, you do three, you get to five, your arms are starting to hurt and you're feeling fatigued and then you just collapse, right? So you go to failure. Whereas the mental mind shift of that physical pain as well is part of it, where you'll see the visible results of you doing those push-ups in time. You'll be stronger. Maybe your failure at 5 turns into a failure at 8. So you're getting stronger. You visually can maybe see that muscle. Where I think mentally, internally, it's hard to see that physical muscle, that strength, if you will, but it will build over time. So with practice and repetition and dedication to the goal, you will get that feeling of growth.
I also think with age as well, and I keep harking back to this because I'm so wise now. But I think when you're younger, it's that shield. You have that shield around you to keep you safe. You're not 1000% sure of your emotions or what's behind them. And I think as you get older, you realize that actually being vulnerable is not just good for yourself, but also those around you. I think there is actually a strength in being vulnerable, even though it's not always easy. I think it's the road less traveled,
Hmm.
but it can be so rewarding. So I think we'd encourage you in this journey to be vulnerable. I know we've been vulnerable with each other
Yep.
in doing this podcast, and it's really had to make us think about our strengths, our weaknesses, who we truly are. But I think that vulnerability and showing it to others is actually paying off.
Yeah. So, how to keep those habits going forward. You can pick up James's book for sure. You can also search within other podcasts to see if he's been on other shows and you could listen to, his habits and hacks that way. You can tap into our workbook. It's not really a reflection of everything James does, but there's definitely some common denominators there. So when you complete that workbook, that will give you, some guides and steps to get to where you want to go.
Remember, you're human. Being vulnerable is part of that.
Yep.
So we talked about being bold. And I think that's one of the things that Brené Brown talks about is
Mhm.
being bold as well. I think actually there might be a book about that. And so we wanted to work with that whole idea of being bold. And we've worked it into a nice acronym that can hopefully help you to move forward with your goals. So bold. B begins for begin before you're ready. Okay. So don't sit there and overthink it.
'Cause you're never gonna be ready. In every aspect, like, I think about big events in your life,
Mhm.
like having children or getting married. You're like, "Do I have it all planned out? Am I gonna be ready?" There's always one more thing you could do. And you just got to go. You just got to go and hope that everything falls into place. And it typically does. And you learn as you go.
And just take the chance.
Yeah.
Just take the chance.
Yeah.
You might fail. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
O is own your desire out loud. So like we said, write that goal down, share it with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Be brave enough to own what you want.
Yep. Be that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
L is limit the overthinking window, that 5 seconds that Jen alluded to before. So
Mm-hmm.
let's literally just count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do.
Yep.
Same as the 5-second rule for food.
Mm-hmm.
D, do one visible action weekly.
Yeah. I think that paralysis of just being in that stall segment is really tough, and it makes you give up. So even if it's a small step, we talked about in episode 1 about eating the whole elephant. You just have to start with one bite every week. Write down what your next week goal is so you can continue to move forward and track that progress.
That's what we do. Each
Mhm.
week we are
Planning the next episode, reacting to comments from previous episodes, listening to the episode to say what could have been done better there and changed, learning, and then figuring out how we better it for the next segment.
it just keeps us going forward. It keeps that momentum.
Yep.
You're moving. You're not in park mode.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what our key takeaway is this week.
Yep.
I like to always try and move things into vision forward, because I think that helps if we take what we've been talking here and put it into real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the key message this week has been action it.
Yep.
Let's move the car into
Drive. Into drive. Yeah.
Instead of park.
Yeah. So in the next 48 hours, please download the resource. We feel like it's a really good resource. Again, it's not overwhelming. It's not a ton of homework. It just helps you get some action against your goal.
So again, you've written down the goal. You shared it. You did not hide it away. Now we urge you to action it. That workbook can help, but you're also the driver in this car.
Yep. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just moving forward.
And we want to thank you for joining us again at Unravel and Uplift. And we'd like to invite you to share this episode or this podcast in general with someone that you know. Also, feel free to reach out to us on socials to let us know how your goal's going. We can help you keep accountable.
Yeah, we want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Download the workbook. Use the BOLD method, BOLD. Use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. And we wish you much success.
We'll see you next time
When we will talk about spring cleaning. Here we
in
are. The weather's
all
changing.
kind of senses of the word.
Yes, every sense. We're cleaning house. We're cleaning physically and mentally. So we'll dig into that. We'll unravel that next week.
In the meantime, let's unravel
And uplift
together.
together.